Newsmakers is presented by Pennsylvania Medical Society. Doctors and patients preserve the relationship. And by the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association. Business in Pennsylvania is our business.
Hi, welcome back to Pennsylvania Newsmakers. Terry Madonna here for the program. I'm chatting with Steve Stetler, the Executive Director of the PA Economy League, the Capital Region. We're talking about Governor Rendell's ambitious agenda. Economy League, of course, is an organization that has a lot of concern, does a lot of studies about how we can implement government policy in an effective and efficient manner. Did I get that right? Is that
absolutely?
That's like a
great ad. Great
sales
ad for us.
for you guys. All right, I want to look. One of the things that obviously, I want to go back to the mass transit and highway situation. You were in the legislature, so you have a really good handle on this. Ultimately, the state looks like to solve the long-term problems, in addition to maybe getting economies out of the system, which maybe can be found, but it also looks like they're going to need some dedicated source of funding, and that will be controversial.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, because the Constitution prohibits the use of monies raised through gas taxes to be used on anything other than the highways and the bridges. So I mean, you have that one thing going on, and we know that there's a need. The Governor's Commission came out with a number of about $1.9 billion to deal with both the issue of mass transit and with the highways and bridges.
But you get into the T word. You know,
absolutely.
The tax word, and you know whether that's doable or not. Some other, but in your judgment.
But
go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, it's a much easier sell in the central part of the state, I think, if you're dealing with highways and bridges.
And mass transit in the urban areas.
And that's why the idea of maybe regionalizing the state and allowing local regions to raise money to deal specifically with their problems might be more palatable to the legislature and to the local communities. I mean, there's been polling done. We did polling about 4 or 5 months ago, which indicated that in the regions, if money's raised there and spent on specific problems in that region, that the taxpayers are pretty amenable to that.
In other words, hey, you spent a lot of time in the legislature, and you know, there's sort of this, I'll be blunt about it, sort of anti-Philadelphia bias or prejudice which exists.
It's a great campaign.
Yeah, right. So what you're saying is that, let's say we take South Central Pennsylvania just for this discussion, we could be talking about Western PA. You'll let the municipalities there pool their resources, decide that maybe they want to use money that they get from some dedicated source to do projects that are peculiar and needed there, as opposed to passing one piece of legislation that covers everybody. Is that your point?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of it. That would be part of it. But it would also, you know, the study said that maybe in the southeast, and if a region, maybe the 5-county area, will want to band together and maybe raise a tax that would deal specifically, dedicated specifically to mass transit. They would be allowed to do that.
But let me ask you this question. Bottom line here is, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being the most important, where would you rate this whole issue of mass transit and highway and bridge funding?
I think it's a 9 or a 10.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about the economics of Pennsylvania and how important for us to be competitive, if we don't have a decent highway system, if we don't have mass transit, we're not competitive. We're absolutely not competitive.
All right, well, let's turn to another subject here. I think, you know, that Governor Rendell, in particular, is going to focus a lot in this spring on trying to get the legislature to do something with health care. Now, you know that the business community is, you know, beset with these $10,000, $11,000, $12,000 per person costs, cutting back health care, you know, certainly with co-pays and deductions, and the rising costs are forcing more companies to eliminate or cut coverage. In addition to that, we got this 1.2 million Pennsylvanians without any coverage. First of all, let me ask you, how important do you think that is as a problem in the state?
Well, I mean, as a business owner, I can tell you health care is a huge concern. I mean, we have the rising cost of health care every year is probably the major element in terms of developing an operating budget for an organization, nonprofit, for-profit, whatever. So I mean, it's critical. I mean, we're only, of all the industrialized nations in the world, we're the only one that doesn't have health care universal for all its residents. Puts business at a huge disadvantage. I mean, I'm not suggesting that universal health care is the answer, but I'm just saying that dealing with the issue.
Well, let me
in
tell
some
you,
fashion
first
or
of all,
another.
it's popular. I've polled and it's popular in the state. It's popular. It's coming.
Yeah.
I think the question is, who delivers it and how do we pay for it? I think that it is. And by the way, people get health care anyway. They just go to the hospitals, and then you add burdens to the hospitals. You know, have to do the coverage, right?
Absolutely.
All right. When we come back, we're going to continue this discussion. My special guest today, Steve Stetler, the Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Economy League out of the Capital Region. We'll return in a moment.
This broadcast of Pennsylvania Newsmakers is presented by Highmark Blue Shield, changing the way health plans work for business with a variety of plan options for employers and more choices for employees. Information is available at highmark.com. Have a greater hand in your company's health. And by the Pennsylvania Healthcare Association, the future of long-term care.